You want to be happy. You want to enjoy inner peace. You want to feel good, and you want to have positive thoughts that make you happy. But damn it, why do we all suffer from so many negative thoughts? Science shows that we think one thought approximately every 1.6 seconds. Now that's 50,000 thoughts every single day. And science also shows that 80% of those thoughts contain at least some degree of negativity. So that's approximately 4,000 negative thoughts that we all experience every single day. There are negative thoughts about relationships. There are negative thoughts about our future. There are negative thoughts about our career. There's negative thoughts about our health. The negativity goes on and on and on and on and on. And it has a profound effect on our health, both mentally and physically. It's imperative that we do something to stop those negative thoughts and to replace them with positive thoughts. Now, before I go on, as you know, some negative thoughts are pretty helpful. For instance, if you wanted to buy a new car and you wanted the absolute best car that might cost $100,000, the negative thought telling you that actually you can only afford $15,000 is probably pretty helpful. However, the vast majority of negative thoughts are not that helpful. For instance, I used to suffer from pretty bad self-esteem issues because I was massively overweight. It was a huge problem for me. I felt bad about myself. I thought I looked terrible. I thought I was terribly unhealthy. I thought every time somebody looked at me that they were judging me and saying, wow, look at this fat guy. Negative thoughts. They had a profound effect on my well-being, on my happiness, on my mental health, on my physical health, on everything. And it's the same for all of us. So what are we going to do about this? Well, for starters, it's important to know which negative thoughts are the worst for you. So the worst negative thoughts that you personally experience, they're the ones that are recurring and automatic. You'll know what they are. They're those thoughts that you keep thinking. They're negative. They're about you. And you keep thinking them over and over again. You don't want to think them, but they just automatically come up time and time again. Those are the biggest problems, the biggest negative thoughts that you experience. Those are the ones that you want to get rid of the most. Now, some examples of the really bad types of negative thoughts, you've got all or nothing thinking. If I don't get this job, my life will be over. All or nothing. You've got disqualifying the positives. Life is always bad. Even though it obviously isn't, we tend to think, or some people tend to think, only in the negative. They don't allow the idea of the positive. Negative self-labeling. I'm fat and useless. That's what I used to think about myself when I was a kid because I was heavily overweight and because I was bullied at school. Catastrophizing. This is thinking that a situation isn't going to be bad. It's going to be literally the worst thing that's ever happened, ever. Mind reading. The idea that you can think, the idea that you know what other people are thinking, which tends to be negative. When you try to mind read, you usually think that people are thinking negative things about you, not positive things. Should statements. I should do this. I should do that. Excessive need for approval. I need you to need me. Disqualifying the present. In other words, everything will be good later, but right now is the really, really bad time. Dwelling. That's when we focus on the negative aspect of something for a prolonged amount of time. And pessimism, the idea that even if things seem all right, they're going to be bad anyway, just cause. These are some of the really negative types of thinking that you need to get rid of. And a lot of them are automatic. For instance, you might have automatic negative thoughts that come to you at a certain time. For instance, if you're in a relationship and there's problems, every time you see your spouse or your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, you might think that the relationship's coming to an end, even though you've been in a relationship for years. You have that negative automatic thought. Those are the thoughts that really eat at you and that prevent you from being happy. So, what can you do to change these negative thoughts? Well, there are 7 key techniques that you can use to prevent and to stop negative thoughts. The first one is to meditate. Take 10 minutes to 20 minutes a day just to focus on your breath. And when a thought arises, for instance, if you're focusing on your breath and then you think something negative in your mind, just label it. Just say, this is just a thought. That's all it is. It's nothing more. Say that to yourself. Say, it doesn't matter because it's just a thought. It's just going through my mind. Number two, write your thoughts on a piece of paper. This will make them more real, more tangible, and more controllable. Number three, draw it out. Sometimes, if you're a visual person, particularly if you're a visual artist, you're going to find it really, really helpful to draw out your negative thoughts. Because as soon as you put them on a piece of paper and you see them, you're going to be able to say, well, that's pretty stupid and ridiculous. Why am I thinking this negativity? You'll notice immediately, whether you write something down or you draw it out, you're going to notice that actually your thoughts really are not that real and that they're pretty crazy. And that will give you control over them. Number four, tell someone, tell a good friend. If you tell a good friend the main things that you're worrying about, two things will happen. One, if it is a legitimate problem, they will help you with it and they will make you feel better about it. Two, if it is not a legitimate problem, they're going to tell you and explain to you why your negative thoughts are actually crazy, and that's going to give you a fresh perspective, which is going to help you shake off that negativity. Number five, play with the thought. This is actually something that comes from neuro-linguistic programming and NLP. Playing with the thought is kind of like changing it. So, for instance, if you hear a voice in your head saying that you're a terrible person, imagine that it were Mickey Mouse saying it. You're a terrible person. Right? It's just an example. Play with the thought. The more creatively you play with the thought, the more you'll realize that you have control over it, and it will stop having control over you. Think the same thought backwards. So this is a cool way to make a negative thought a game. You basically just flip it around and think the negative thought completely backwards. And then the final one, rate the thought from 1 to 10 in terms of importance and truth. So if the thought is crazy and it's also not remotely true and it's not important, then you're going to rate it a 1. If it is important and it's true, then you're going to rate it a 10. Now, this can help because it can help you to notice negative thoughts that you do actually need to deal with. For instance, if you have a negative thought about your health and you actually are unwell, and your negative thought tells you to go to the doctor because you might be seriously ill, you rate that a 10 and you take care of it. Whereas if you think, well, actually, I'm probably dying, but there's no reason because actually you're incredibly fit, which is paranoia, objectively analyze that thought, rate it from 1 to 10. What is it? It's probably like not even a 1. And so by doing that, you train your mind to judge the quality and the validity of your negative thoughts, and that gives you control over them. Now, there are other things that you can do as well. For instance, removing negative sources of influence. If there are people who you run into all the time and they make you feel negative, don't run into them. If there's TV shows, for instance, if watching the news makes you depressed, don't watch the news. Don't believe all those people that say that you have to watch the news because it tells you what's going on in the world, even though it's only the media's own controlled version of what's going on in the world. If it makes you feel bad, don't do it. Take out the negative influences in your life. Remove those negative sources and put positive sources in their place. Remember, negative sources, negative influences, they're going to train your mind to think in negative ways and they're going to produce negative thoughts. Whereas if you reduce the negative influence and increase the positive influences, you're going to start thinking much more positively. So it's good news because even though we humans do think on average 40,000 negative thoughts a day, we also have the power to control that. You don't have to spend your life dealing with negative thoughts that upset you. You can choose to live a positive life that will produce positive thoughts, that will produce a positive mental state. Choose positivity and you'll train your mind to think and believe the positive, and that positivity will influence your future. So guys, what do you think about this video? Do you suffer from negative thoughts? What have you done to control those negative thoughts? And what advice do you have for other people who are watching? I'm Paul from Daily Meditation. Thank you for watching my video. I truly appreciate all your support as always, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe and vote this video up. Thank you very much for watching.